Hello, everyone. This is Sebastian McMahon from IA Financial Group. I'm on the road very early in the morning, but still, some important things are happening in the markets and the economy. So I thought it would be important to be here to discuss the week ending September 13, 2024. So this week we'll be discussing coin flips because the election that is looming in early November now, the odds are pretty much 50-50, so looking like a coin flip. Next week, we have the Federal Reserve that should come in with the first cut, but is it going to be 25 basis points or 50 basis points? According to the market pricing, it's pretty much a coin flip. We still favor 25 basis points. We think this is what will happen. But again, we need to keep a very open mind here based on the odds and the market. So um, maybe start with the markets at the close of the week on Thursday. Very positive week. Bonds continue to do well. So 0.5% on the week for the universe index, 0.8 for the long index. Year to date, we're getting into very healthy territory here. The week in equities was quite positive. Last week, we had a negative week. We still think there's this sector rotation going on. It's still a theme, although this week the Nasdaq was stronger than the S&P 500. We have 5.3% on the Nasdaq on the week. A lot of that came from Nvidia. This week we had a pop of about 8% in a single day in Nvidia, based on comments by the president about how their clients are frustrated by the fact that they can't deliver quickly enough. So that kind of tells you that there's still ample demand for chips. So that was enough to move the markets. EFI, emerging markets, TSX also were positive. Price of gold up strongly on the weekend. As I'm recording this, it's very early Friday morning, but we're getting near 2600 here, so good momentum for the price of gold. So let's talk about the debate this week. So it's pretty much consensus that Harris won the first debate. She was able to get under the skin of Donald Trump, which was her strategy. Her strategy was to show that Donald Trump is unfit to be a leader. So she seems to have accomplished some of that. Now, will this give a boost to her campaign? So far, we think yes. What kind of a boost? Maybe 0.5% or 1% on the odds. Will it stick? Well, no, the election is still far into the future. Early November, it's an eternity in politics at the time that we have between now and then. But maybe the most significant event on the week is the support from singer Taylor Swift with all of her followers, and the fact that she supports Kamala Harris, and she shared the link on where you can register to vote. So the idea, this is going to be a very tight election. It's going to go down to maybe tens of thousands of votes in key swing states. So anything that can get people that would maybe not have voted to register and vote in either direction could be a key here. So getting the young to vote, getting women to vote more, that could be a deal breaker here. But again, it's just so far to the future that right now what we can say that this seems to be renewing the momentum that Mrs. Harris was having. Maybe that was stalling recently. So good news for her. So when we look at the charts, well, on the left you have the odds from predicted. You see that this gave a bit of a boost to Ms. Harris following a regain of momentum from Mr. Trump over the last few weeks. On the right, when you look at the polls, well, Mr. Trump, again, the red line, was clawing back some losses recently. Now, it's still early after the debate, but you start to see that maybe there was an impulse that favors Mrs. Harris. But again, it goes down to an electoral college in the US, and you need to vote to win the key states. It's not about the popular vote. Remember that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but she lost the electoral college. This is how it goes. So maybe now looking at another coin flip decision. Well, the Fed decision next week. First, maybe the inflation data that we got in the US this week. The trend continues lower for the year-over-year figures. This is what you have on the left. So, of course, the Fed will not wait until we're at 2% in inflation. They need to start cutting before. Mr. Powell at Jackson Hole gave it's time to move or the time has come speech. Now, we know that we're going to get a cut next week. Trend confirms that. But on the right, the month over month number on core inflation was a bit hotter than expected. It's 0.3 versus 0.2. So you might say, well, it's a small difference, but it does tell you that, it's not like inflation is crashing down and it's urgent to get moving fast. So means that yes, they will move, but they will not move by 50 basis points. This is still our call, and the market repriced those odds following this report this week. So if we go to the odds, the last chart here, so of course, it's minus 1.4 next week, the line on top. So that means that one cut of 25 basis points is fully priced in, and 40% odds of a 50 basis points cut is priced in. So pretty much a coin flip about 25 versus 50. We still think 25 makes more sense. 50 is akin to just hitting the panic button. We don't think that they would go in that direction. But again, we need to keep a very open mind here because the odds priced into the markets are suggesting that maybe it's more likely it is likely to happen, although it's not the base case scenario, but it's something that we could see next week. So likely we will have some volatility either way next week because it's a very important meeting, maybe the most important Fed meeting over the last few years here. So the tone will be set about this cutting cycle. How do they go about it? The language will be very important. So expect a busy week next week. Decision is on on a Wednesday, September 18, 2 p.m. Eastern time, and we have a press conference at 2:30. So what we'll be watching next week in Canada, CPI inflation, summary of deliberations from the Bank of Canada following their last decision where they decided to cut for the third time in a row, and the retail sales figure in the U.S. retail sales, housing starts, and also the very important Fed decision, again, Wednesday, September 18, 2 p.m. Eastern time. So that wraps it up for the week. Always a pleasure to serve you. If you appreciate the content here, please share, and of course, come back again next week.